Welcome everyone to ES Fancast. Sometime in 2015, a phone call rang. He was warned about this phone call. Supposedly, it was going to be the weirdest phone call of his life. This we get to know from a previous interview, so we have our homework done. On the other side was Shaquille O'Neal's agent, Perry Rogers. Thus began a journey of friendship and business filled with fun and respect. To give us more on this 8 year long journey and an insight into the ever so famous Big Chicken, we have with us the CEO, Josh Halpern. Welcome to the show, Mr. Halpern. Hope you're
Thank you
doing
so
well
much for
today.
having me. No, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on. And I've never heard it put so eloquently, the beginning of my journey with Perry Rogers and Shaquille. That was really amazing. And that's how it happened. So, I was literally trying to build a restaurant with Budweiser as the theme in Las Vegas, Nevada, and was told by the city, you can't have your Clydesdale horses on the strip. And I didn't know what to do. And one day I get this call, you're going to get a very strange phone call. And it was Perry. And 10 days later, Perry and Shaquille are with me in St. Louis, Missouri at the Anheuser-Busch Brewery. And 7 months after that, Beer Park by Budweiser opened at the Paris Hotel. And Perry and I stayed in touch ever since that time. And it's been amazing over the last 2.5 years to work as the CEO of Big Chicken alongside Perry and Shaquille and the rest of the team every day.
That's amazing to hear. Now that you mention about, how you got in touch with Shaq and Perry, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your first Shaquille O'Neal experience and how is that like?
My first ever experience with Shaquille, I had met him once previously, but it was very quick. But my first actual experience, he came to the St. Louis brewery and he gave me this monstrous bear hug. I felt like a little like teddy bear, right? As he hugged me, and he's in this meeting, just kind of before the rest of the day takes off. He's sitting in the meeting with Perry and I, and he'd randomly start chiming in the meeting. We didn't even think he was paying attention, but everything he said was spot on, right? And then we toured the Anheuser-Busch Brewery together, and he started asking these deep, probing questions. And it made me realize that this is one of the most authentic people out there, and that he's not just the face. He very, very much is instilling his values, his mind, everything, and everything that he does. And I walked away with just I always loved Shaq, right? But it was a new appreciation, not of Shaq, the on-air persona, but Shaquille O'Neal, the person. And I realized they're really one and the same, which is rare with celebrities. Normally celebrities have like their on the air persona, and then this is who they sort of are. Shaquille is exactly who he is. He has such an off the charts level of authenticity that's really unbelievable, and just a pleasure to be around.
Wow. With that, I have a serious question for you. Who is your
Uh-oh.
favorite basketball player and which team have you supported? We won't tell Shaq if it's not related to him. Don't worry.
No, look, it is Shaq, right? I've always loved Shaquille, right? And that's not because I have to answer it that way, right? I grew up. I actually grew up in New York, so I grew up a New York Knicks fan. But I think there are players right now that they play the game the right way. It's really, really difficult to dislike Steph Curry, right? Because he's just so much fun to watch, and he's played for one team for so long, and he cares about the fans. And Shaquille cares about the fans and is fun to watch. So I think there's something about not just having great talent, but also being values led, and providing fun for the fans that are coming to see you, that make it so enjoyable. And I've always liked players like that. And that's why I've always liked Shaquille.
I love that you mentioned Steph. He's one of my favorites as well. So it's excellent that you brought up Steph.
Yeah.
So what is the experience of earning and maintaining Shaquille O'Neal's highest level of trust like? How does that feel?
Yeah, well, first off, it's, because we're franchising, he really trusts me to make sure that his reputation remains intact, right? Because if we partner with the wrong people, or if our franchisees don't make money, or whatnot, they don't look at it and say, oh, well, Big Chicken or Josh, I did business with Shaquille, right? And that's something that very seriously sits on my mind every day. Shaquille has likened his business empire to a basketball team. And he says each person plays their position and he trusts us to play the position with excellence. And if I reach out to him and say, I need you in this moment, he's there. And if he reaches out to me and says, I need you in this moment, I'm there. And I think having that trust, but that connection at the same time makes it that much more rewarding, and it allows us to move faster as a company as a result of that.
Okay, so you do bring about how people who set up these franchisees, they're directly, in a way, doing business with Shaq, right? So how do you distinguish between Big Chicken and Shaq as, the brand appeal and
Yeah,
making it
that
all about Big Chicken and the food and the experience you give consumers?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a tricky thing, right? Because most people are going to come to Big Chicken for the first time because of Shaquille,
Yeah,
but they're only going to come back if the food and the service are great, right? Most
yeah,
franchisees will reach out to us for the first time because of Shaquille, but they're only going to sign a franchise agreement. If they're the right franchisee, they would only sign a franchise agreement because they believe in our operations, they believe in the system, they believe in what we're trying to do. No one is going to buy a franchise solely so they could get a photograph with Shaquille. There's way cheaper ways to get a photograph with Shaquille, right, than building a restaurant for close to $1 million, right? So it's as a result, we're really looking for people that say the fact that Shaquille is here is incredible, but we believe in the rest of the business too. And then with our guests in the restaurant, yeah, I'm coming because I want to support Shaquille, but man, it blew me away from a food and service perspective. I'm going to keep coming back because celebrity-led concepts only work if there's a legitimately high-quality business behind the concept. Otherwise, it's a flash in the pan, right? People will come and then leave, and we don't want that. Shaquille is so tied to Big Chicken because, it really, he could have done a chicken endorsement somewhere. He wanted to build his own because chicken is so personal to him. It ties so well into his childhood that he wanted this to sort of be the thing that he created. And as a result, it has to be more than just him. It has to be about all of it.
yeah. So you bring up how people approach you with franchisees, and then in the long run, it's $1 million business. So it's not just for Shaq that they get into
Yeah.
get a start their franchisee for. So, as per reports, around 2,500 franchisee requests have been rejected. Why is it so tough to bag a franchisee deal with Big Chicken? I mean, it
Yeah.
seems tougher than getting into an Ivy League college.
I've made that joke before. You're
Really?
100% right. Yeah, and now it's over 3,000 franchise applications rejected. And
Uh,
realistically, it's a couple things, right? One, we want to work with bigger groups, right? Because if we can work with folks that have experience already doing multi-unit franchising, um, there's just greater expectation setting on both sides in terms of the results we can achieve. Second off, like half of the applications we've rejected literally start with, yo, Shaq, I'll open up a chicken joint with you. And that's not exactly the sort of person that you want to,
yeah,
trust in this thing. So it's we're choosy because we really want to bring on the right partners, because a franchise based company like we are is only as strong as the weakest franchisee. And we
yeah,
want to make sure that the weakest franchisee we bring in would still be an exceptional franchisee within the franchising world.
yeah, yeah. So we realized that Big Chicken did something really unique. They started a Facebook series even before the business went into like a full blown business, right? So, how did this benefit the company overall? And would you have personally done anything different?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I joke all the time. I have 99 problems and 99 things done for me because Shaquille O'Neal is the founder of this company, right? So like little things, right? Like the fact that we literally launched as a Facebook Live TV show, or the fact that, our first award that we ever won as a company was best fries at sea, because Shaquille, who's been an endorser of Carnival Cruises forever, said, "Hey, can you help me? Can we get some big chickens on some of your boats?" And all of a sudden, we win best fries at sea, because that's a normal first award for a fast food company, right? Big Chicken Shack, though, was really great, I think, in a lot of ways, because it really showcased the fact that Shaquille's actively involved in this brand, that the chefs behind this brand, Matt Silverman and Matt Piekarski, who I work with every day, are truly phenomenal chefs, that they thought about every little detail in making the first Big Chicken, and that they didn't just hang their hat on the fact that Shaquille was a part of it. They treated it very, very seriously. I mean, these guys are Las Vegas chefs that have opened huge restaurants in Las Vegas. So I think from that angle, it was a great thing for the organization. I think it would be interesting to kind of think about that. Would we do it again, sort of a thing? But you can't really view it that way. It's a part of our story. It's a part of our heritage, and it's a fun part of our heritage. We still have that TV show streaming in all of our restaurants, right? Because watching Shaquille on the chicken farm or at Pepsi headquarters or legitimately forming deep bonds with the two corporate chefs, Matt Silverman and Matt Piekarski, it just shows the authenticity of what Big Chicken is.
So now talking about you and your role, in an interview from April 2023, you mentioned that Shaq, Perry, and the two Matts that you brought up right now knew what exactly they were getting into with you. To quote, they knew exactly the moments they hugged me, the moment they'd want to choke me. They knew the exact mindset. So what was this mindset, and how do you ensure that your mindset rubs off on the team that you're working with?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that they liked was they knew that with my personality and the way I've always approached business, we would be able to lift this up, right? But part of that, so first on the love side, the teams that I've led have had great cultures, and they're diverse teams, but they have a collective ethos, and the ethos is created by the team, and everyone buys into that ethos. They also saw me with a P&L in the way that I could kind of strip out costs and reinvest the cost savings into things that help grow the company, right? So if you can build your team the right way and you can build your P&L the right way, those are going to be good things, right? Knowing, you're coming to a company where the Matts and Perry, they were used to building one-unit restaurants on the Las Vegas Strip to now having to replicate, in theory, hundreds of times, right? Yeah. The notion of going from an idea or one to scale has those moments where, I'll give you the perfect example. When I got here, we were still making spice blends in the restaurant, right? And I needed to kind of like nudge a bit to say, hey, do we really want every fast food restaurant across our system, knowing we're about to enter Ohio, Seattle, Arizona at the time? Do we really want them sitting there making these spice blends themselves? Or do we want someone to make the blend for us so that we're shipping in the container of it pre-done, right? But for a chef, it's, well, I always blend my own spices, right? And I'm like, but the guy that is going to be doing this isn't you, right? If it was you doing it at every restaurant, we'd be good to go, right? So that's where some of that like choke out, that moment on when they'd want to choke me sort of comes to be. The other thing is I try very much to be partnership driven in everything we do. And that means there are moments where I have to say to my company, we're not going to be good partners if we do it this way. And if we do it this other way, we still achieve your goal, but can do it in a way where everyone wins. And for me, that's really, really important. Our guests need to win every day. Our franchisees need to win every day. Our suppliers need to win every day. We need to win every day. And it only works if all four groups are winning together.
This is what your 4-win program is all about, right? When the four.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, 100%.
Yeah, that's great. So tell us more about Josh Halpern, the boss.
I don't really view it as Josh the boss, right? It's it's more how do we all partner together and how do we build something that we're proud of? When I read 2 business books that I'm not the biggest business book guy, but every so often I'll read a business book that just clicks for me. And when I read True North by Bill George, and it talked about how you need to follow your compass, not your clock, right? Don't worry about on what day will we get to 100 units. Worry about, the way you're leading so that you can get to 100 units, right? And then the book by James Kerr, who called Legacy, which is about the All Blacks New Zealand rugby team, when he talks about, are you leaving the jersey in a better place? So I really approach every day, hey, are we doing the right things for us and for our partners, that when we all look back at this experience many, many years from now, when we're old and gray, and say those were the years that we valued the most in our career because we truly built something spectacular together. That's really where it leads from. And then, on top, and then once you get past that, then it becomes the only way it works is if we're all performing our roles with excellence. So are you doing what you say you're doing? Are you hitting the numbers you're saying you're going to hit? And if you're not, are you raising your hand and asking for help, knowing that your teammates will rally around you to help you?
So when we talk about a team, I personally believe that failure is a huge part of a team because, and when you're building something, it's not a straight graph. There are ups and downs. So in an interview, I think on NBA on TNT, Shaq speaks about failure. He says, "I failed 16 times. I did because I was the Shaq. I was the man. I had all commercials. I had all money. But you're supposed to win. You miss a lot of free throws, you cannot shoot, you failed. And then when I won, and what did they expect me to do? Win again." Right? This is what he talks about, how people looked at him and talks about failure. So how much of this do you resonate with, and what's your take on failure?
I resonate on all of it. I mean, I say to our team all the time, fail fast, fail cheap, right? You cannot have a team that's afraid to fail. You cannot have a team where they're worried that they're going to get yelled at if they make a mistake. I had a breakfast a few years ago with a guy named Joel Bolger, who was the CMO of Johnny Rockets, which is a popular restaurant chain that many people have probably been at who are watching this. And he told me, and I love this, and I actually did it with my team in my last company. So I kind of took his idea at my last company. He would give his people 2 get out of jail free cards every year, and on the back of the card, it said, "Here's what I tried. Here's why it didn't work. Here's what I learned from it." And he would sign it, and so would the employee who made the mistake. And the only rule was you had to use both in a year, right? So, I mean, you have to have an organization where people are willing to take calculated risk. Hopefully they're doing it in a way, though, where they're failing fast, failing cheap. I love to pilot things. I love to say, let's try it in 1 store or 2 stores. And if it works, scale up really, really quickly, as opposed to, swinging a pendulum and hoping it works for everybody all at once.
Okay, so what is the biggest lesson Big Chicken has taught you?
I think there's probably 2, right? I think the first one is going from a founder's idea to scale only works if everyone in the organization is focused on scale, but while protecting the founder's mentality, right? Like
Yeah.
it can't just be we're going to become a bureaucratic organization as we get bigger, right? The what the founders set in mind has to exist throughout the organization journey. I think the second thing that I learned, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the first one, is what works for you when you have 2 restaurants open won't work for you at 10. What you have at 10 won't work for you at 50. So, I've always talked about having a continuous improvement mindset, but you really need to be just cognizant of the fact that you're going to have to make major decisions because things don't necessarily work as you grow, and things that you think you'll have to undo or stop doing, you may find are actually your best strengths, and things that you think are your best strengths, you may realize aren't your strengths, right? So you always need to be evaluating, and you always need to be willing to, push your salient strengths further and eliminate the behaviors or actions that aren't working out for you in that moment in time.
This break ties up to my next question, which is, what have you learned from Shaq, who, has such a, I would say, a crazy life where he's doing so many things at once. So, what have you learned from him, working so
Yeah,
closely with him?
I think it's 2 things. It's, the first one is you need to be authentic all the time, right? Like I can't get up there on stage and pretend I'm somebody I'm not. I'm not going to get on an interview with you and your group who I admire and respect and try to pretend I'm someone I'm not, right? Shaquille is unapologetically Shaquille, and the world has said, we like this guy, right? So I don't need to try to pretend I'm someone I'm not. And Shaquille definitely enforces that every single day. Second thing that he enforces every single day is it's work-life integration, right? It's he calls me, he asks me about my son's basketball. On their birthdays, he's made videos in the past where they can show their friends, right? along the same lines, it wouldn't dawn on him, hey, he might call me 9 o'clock at night. Wouldn't dawn on him it's 9 o'clock at night, because in his mind, I'm living, I'm working, I'm a human being doing it all together. And I find that working environment is really, really incredible, because so many of us work in companies where it's like, what do you mean you're on your kid's basketball court at 6 p.m. and not behind your computer? For Shaquille, it's, well, you're at your kid's basketball game. That's great. Of course you need to be there. If you could talk to me while you're there, great. If not, call me back. Right. And that's a beautiful thing when you're able to kind of weave your work and your life together in a way that's meaningful for the people that you work with and the people that are in your family and that you live with. So those are the things I've really learned from working from Shaquille.
Wow, that's really beautiful. Especially the part of how he gives you that space, or there is that positive working environment around Shaq and the whole company. So there have been times where Shaquille O'Neal has, in a way, endorsed wouldn't be the right word, like would go out and get an In-N-Out burger. So these are, in a way, your competitors. How does that affect Big Chicken when Shaq does something like that? Or his family, they do post stories from In-N-Out. So how does that affect Big Chicken, or does it at all
I
affect
mean,
Big Chicken?
it shouldn't. I eat an In-N-Out burger from time to time.
Yeah.
We don't have 1,500 Big Chickens all over America yet. But even if we did, you can't eat at the same restaurant every single meal, right? The question is, is Big Chicken inside his heart? Is Big Chicken inside my heart? Is Big Chicken inside his kid's heart? I've met most of his kids at this point and have had conversations with them on Big Chicken. To a person, they all love Big Chicken, right? But the notion that someone should eat at a Big Chicken every single meal that they eat out, I mean, that's not fair either, So it's, I have no issues with him being out in other restaurants, because so am I. So is everyone, right? I don't take that. I don't really view that as anything, quite honestly.
Okay. What initiatives does Big Chicken have in place to promote responsible business practices and concepts like sustainability?
It's a great question. I mean, all of our material right now, our paper and whatnot, it's recyclable. In terms of our chicken, we use a higher cut of bird, so it's no antibiotics ever, right, in the chicken.
Mhm.
No preservatives, etc. But as we grow, social responsibility is going to be really key to what we do. Right now, the number one place that we're evaluating it from, and we're evaluating it from a couple different angles that will come out over the next 3 to 4 months, and we'll make sure that you guys are aware as we do it. But we're really, really trying to think, Shaquille's really about kids in so many ways. He loves kids. He supports the Boys and Girls Club. The Shaquille O'Neal Foundation supports the Boys and Girls Club. Right now, we're looking at initiatives in how can we promote STEM education, so science, technology, engineering, and math, in our restaurants with kids, both on like an elementary school basis, but also a middle school and high school basis. So it's going to be more the promotion of education more than anything else, because Shaquille everything comes back to his authenticity, and that notion of how do we serve youth it resonates with me. It resonates with Big Chicken. It resonates with Shaquille.
Wow, that's really, really nice. So getting towards the last end of the interview, can you tell us a favorite anecdote with Shaq that you have never shared before?
Oh, that I've never shared before.
Yeah, on a platform
Um,
like this.
yeah, he does amazing things for my kids, but does them in a way where like I'm like, oh my God, right? So on my son's 9th birthday in February, Shaquille made a little video for Jonah, my middle son, for his birthday, and in it he says, "Hey Jonah, make sure your dad knows you're just 2 years away from the iPhone." And I'm like, "Why? Like, I love you, but why? Why did you do this to me?" Right? So now my son is all the time. He's like, Shaquille said in 2 years I get the iPhone, and he plays these like little jokes, but those little jokes are why you love him too, and why you have such incredible stories about him, and you know all of it. It's just he's always thinking about how could he put a smile on somebody's face and how can he make their day. And that's really what makes it so great, right? Or like the first time we ever the first time we ever did had him read, script for some of the stuff we have on our website. Some of the videos he's done. He literally goes through the script and he knows exactly who wrote it. But now there's like 20, 30 people in the room, right? And I wrote out the things for him. And he puts it down. He goes, who the hell wrote this? This reads like Josh wrote it. And I'm like, I wrote it. Like, why did you do this to me? But it's like the best part. Yeah, there's actually this photo, and it's been in a few of the interviews, and I'm staring up at him with this massive grin on my face, and it came right after that moment. But it's part of the fun. We take the business really seriously, but we don't take ourselves really seriously. We have to be able to laugh, right? And we have to be able to say, I truly love working with the people around us. I truly value the people around us. I value what they value. I want to be in this journey together. And holy cow, I want to be in this journey with Shaquille O'Neal. He's one of a kind, and he's one of the most authentic people I've ever met. And just all of it has really been a blessing.
Wow. I mean, that's funny. I wish you the best of luck in the next 2 years. You will have to give that iPhone, I'm sure. Or Shaq might do it himself. You never know.
Yeah. No. It's like Jonah. He has it on his calendar, and it's like, this is the day Shaquille said you're getting me the iPhone. But it's those sort of things where I could look at it and just shake my head. But I mean, you see the smile on my face telling the story, right? I mean, odds are he was getting the iPhone on his 11th birthday. I don't know, but it's those moments and the ability for my kids to feel like they have a relationship with Shaquille, and all of those things just really make things great. So it's truly special when you're in an environment where it's work-life integration, and you don't have to feel like, well, now I'm going to work and now I'm going home. It's one life, right?
Wow, that's funny, and that's that's a really special bond, I would say.
Yeah.
So my last question is, I know where your loyalties lie, but I have to ask, in spite of the association with Shaq, the menu boasts about a Charles Barkley burger. I think it's the sloppy one, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, so that's not on our menu right now.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not on our menu. Charles did a deal with Subway, and as a result, we needed to change the item to the big and sloppy.
Okay.
But if you're asking me, do I prefer Shaquille or Charles? That's not a question, right? We know which way I'm going.
Yeah, no, because he did mention, I think in Houston, when there was an interview, when you open one of your Big Chicken franchisee, he says, my favorite is the sloppy Charles Barkley burger. So, which is why we put this question in.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, I mean, that's how it came to be, right? He called Matt Silverman, our main chef, and said, I want to do a sandwich called the Charles Barkley, make it big and sloppy the way he is, right? And and it was a joke, right? But it was called the Charles Barkley, and it's a sloppy sandwich. Now it's just the big and sloppy, and it's a great seller for us in certain stores and in certain parts of the country. We continue to try to push the boundaries on where we can have big fun and big food, and that's a really big fun and sloppy sandwich. So it's on our menu, and it's doing just great.
What is the one dish that you would say if someone walks into Big Chicken, has to try, cannot step away without trying that one meal?
Yeah, so our sandwiches are designed where it's regardless of, as long as you eat chicken, you'll find the sandwich for you. So we have spicier ones, less spicy ones, sweeter ones. You need to try one of our chicken sandwiches. But if there's only one thing that I would get on a menu, and the number of times I've had a milkshake lunch, it's actually probably, I don't even want to admit how many times. But our milkshake is incredibly special. And if you're coming to Big Chicken, make sure that if you're going to eat a sandwich, you also have a milkshake. Our shakes are really, really superb. It's a Southern vanilla, so there's hints of different things in the vanilla blend that really make it great. And it's really hard for me to be at a Big Chicken and not have a milkshake.
Wow. Now that, all of us live in India, whoever is listening, most of us from our company lives in India. Do you plan to go global with Big Chicken?
Well, like the answer I gave earlier, we are definitely going to go global, but only with the right partner. So if someone in India were to send a note, yo, Shaq, I want to open up a chicken joint with you, the answer will be no. But if there is a company out there that is a really talented company, either regionally or nationally, that can bring us into the country the right way and partner with us on building supply chain and some of those things, India is definitely in our roadmap, as are many other countries around the world.
Oh, that's really exciting to hear. So I'm manifesting that someone reaches out without a Yo Shack message with something more professional. Thank you so much for your time. This was a great interview. There was a lot of laughter and a lot of things to learn from. And thank you so much for giving us this time and this opportunity. And I hope Big Chicken does really, really well and, goes global and beats everything that's out there. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the time.